My name is Comrade. Sorry that I'm a bit challenged, so I'm going to stand here if you don't mind. My name is Nadim Hendricks. I'm not going to say much about myself, but I know that I have been in the struggle when I was in Standard 6 child at Trafalgar High School, which was in 1969, where we were conscientized by people like Dalla Umar and his company. So since that time, I've been an activist until to this very day. So I'm not going to give you my credentials because I'm still fighting that very same fight up till this very day. I'm the person, I just want to remind you this, President of the ANC. I'm speaking now to the President of the ANC. That I also was one of the first committee members that fought very hard for the return of the elders in District 6 with Dr. Anwar Nagia. We repossessed that land from the city and we built that houses without their permission. And we had the support at that time of Dalla Umar and Shiraz Desai. And I can go on. And lately, I've been very much involved in a lot of other things, but the one thing that I'm extremely involved is the Palestinian issue with SSS. And we were the organization that brought the first Palestinian team to South Africa. And now, this year, we brought, under the Football for Humanity, the Palestinian team. So I just want to give you an idea that you speak to somebody that is grounded in the struggle. And this is why I thought today I want to speak first to you. Because I feel very, very disturbed at this particular stage. I'm a voter. I need you to understand that. And I drive around Cape Town. I don't drive anymore. I've got my son and my wife driving because I'm a bit challenged now. But I'm extremely disturbed that the ANC gives the impression in the Western Cape that they are once more factionalized and they are once more divided. Comrade, I'm upset at that. We have an admirable challenge which you set us. We took the Israeli colonial government to the ICJ. We showed the world, you showed the world at national level that the national party of the ANC, the national, could take on the world and the biggest Zionist movement, and they could do it with an absolute conviction. And they're standing and they're fighting it, irrespective of the consequences under your leadership. And that we admire. You really made us proud to be South Africans again. And you must remember that. And we are worried in the Western Cape that you are destroying that. We are worried in the Western Cape that that has been destroyed. Because in the Western Cape, the ANC is not showing the gumption. They're not showing the gumption that you are showing at national level. You know, Comrade Chair, Comrade President, I'm involved as an activist in virtually every aspect of this particular society, and people here will tell you that. But today I felt I need to tell you to stand up to your particular conviction as leader of this great party. And do not treat the Western Cape like you're treating us, or people in the Western Cape guiding you to treat us the way you are treating us. We are worried that if things don't go where the ANC is in a particular strong position to win the Western Cape or to be the leading party in information of whatever happens here, they must. And the only way we can do that is if we show the necessary leadership. And we must come from you. From you. You must not listen to your Western Cape factions. I'm not part of that. I will never be part of that. I'm an activist. We need to show strength. I drive on all the highways. I see all the posters. I see the parties going to party. I see on every particular platform. I see the different candidates that represents their particular parties very strongly. Not the ANC. Not the ANC. Now I'm going to ask my question. Because I need to do this to give the president background as to how we are again in self-destruct. Mr. President, a process was followed. I know. I'm on the inside. I know. You'll be surprised. I have done this under Mandela. I've done this under Thabo. I've done it with Quinty when I was over there. So I've gone through a lot of presidents and premiers. But we cannot allow it to happen anymore. You have made a decision at national level. You made a decision at every particular level. Who must be the premier candidate? You made that decision in your structures in a disciplined manner. You went through all the processes. You cannot allow the Western Cape not to be shown who their particular leader is. That person that you chose is a person of absolute integrity. I know. I'm nearly done. That person is a person of absolute integrity. I'm educated. I'm a retired principal. I fed in COVID 500,000 together with my comrades, children in areas that you know there was famine because of COVID. This person was with us in the trenches. So I'm asked this, I'm in the education sector. This person is ever in the Western Cape. He is together where the people need him. And you are not announcing him as your premier candidate when you went through that process. I demand that you announce him as purely for the sake of the fact that we need to be in a strong position and people need to know who is going to lead them. At this stage, there is no indication who's going to lead in the Western Cape. And who must we vote for? Who must we vote for? We need to know that the person you put in place, Mr. President, is a strong person. And therefore, I ask you to have the guts to announce that person. We know it's Ghali Sayed. We know that. We ask you to get that poster out, so that the people can decide that the person of integrity is leading this province, and this province is in safe hands. You, Mr. President, please do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, Mr. President. A few years ago, I posed this question to you, and I'm involved in sports. My name is Bubi Kasim. I'm with Triple S. I posed the question that we have a problem in the Western Cape with the Athlone Stadium, the Vygieskraal, and Turfville. All of these stadiums used to be with us. Even SAFA hold a position in Athlone Stadium. It is the home of football. It should be run by football. The same with Turfville. It's the home of softball. It should be run by softball. And so is City Park. And so is Vygieskraal. This is the golden strip for the sports people in the Western Cape. All the stadiums, everything is the golden strip. Yet, we don't have the power of these stadiums. It's still in the hands of the city or the DA. And we've been kicked out of it. I posed this question a few years. We've been fighting for this to get our homes back. That is the places where we do sports. But yet, it's still in our hands. It's not in our hands, and we can't get to it. We beg you, as the president, to step in and give it back to us or to help us with that. My second question, as you all know, that we are very much involved with Palestine. We brought the Palestinian team, the national team. We brought a team from Gaza. We're now going to bring a team from the refugee camp in June. But besides that, many of these teams that we bring, some of these people are coming back. And you know what? We have a problem with their visas. We have a problem that these people cannot stay in our country. They have to apply for refugee status. That means they cannot work. They come with skills. We need your help to have a policy in place so that we can also have the Palestinians as a home here in Cape Town and especially in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Babu. Number 3.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I need to perhaps make a confession. I'm not a member of the ANC, but you're the first ANC president I've come out to meet. And the reason for this is I'm truly humbled, immensely grateful for what the country has done, become a bastion for the oppressed globally, and particularly in Palestine. So thank you. Secondly, as you might know, as a member of the Muslim community, we're tired of blue and white. We're tired of the other colors. We're tired of feeling the disconnect between national and the province. We are part of South Africa, and it's time that we were embraced as such. So we need a little more commitment in the Western Cape in terms of who we vote for. The game changer as a member of the Muslim community in particular, and as a citizen in this country, has been and will be who is the premier candidate. I must thank you, Mr. President. We know that you've been teasing us with Khalid Sayed in the media. The media has already proposed him as a candidate. I might add, he's easy on the eye. He's young, agile. He's a community person, not only for the Muslim community, but for the diverse communities that we have in the Western Cape. And we need people with chutzpah, people with energy, who will tackle the oppressive factors that we find here in the Western Cape. So we need a face on the poster, Mr. President. We like your face. We like seeing your face on the posters, but we really need to see who our premier candidate is. And thus far, we validate the view of the ANC, if it is indeed the view of the ANC, that Khalid Sayed would be the premier candidate. We need to see his face on posters. People choose emotionally. They choose on the basis of who they see, who they know in communities, and strategically, it doesn't make sense if we don't know who our premier candidate is now, before the elections. So thank you, President. And again, we're humbled by the efforts, and I'm given to understand that you made particular input in the papers that went to the ICJ. Thank you.
Muleni, Assalamu alaikum, beloved President. Thank you for coming and in being in our presence today, listening to our voices. Mr. President, I'm Munir Hendricks from Mitchells Plain, Portland's Ward 78. I come to you not only as an activist that's on ground, but also as an ANC member that is also here to echo the voices that was just mentioned before me. To echo the voices of my comrades, my brothers, and everyone else of the Western Cape. To tell it to you, Mr. President, we need a face for the Premier of the Western Cape. Mr. President, we have a son of this soil of Western Cape. We have a son that was groomed by our ANC. He came from a young structure up. I do believe, because not do I only work with Comrade Khalid Said, but he's the man of the soil, not for the Muslim community only, but for all denominations within the Western Cape. From Langa, Khayelitsha, all over the place. Schools, he doesn't go just to affluent schools, but he goes down to all factions of the schools. That needs to be seen to. Beloved President, in this document that is here in my hand, everything that's stipulated in this document, Comrade Khalid stands for. He breathes and lives ANC. It is now time, Mr. President, where Western Cape is for the taking. We need to choose, are we going to give it back to the blue, or are we going to claim it like our own, like during the time of Ibrahim Rasool? 15 years is too long. I believe, Mr. President, Western Cape is ours. We need to take it, and we need your voice. Mr. President, 2 minutes is too short to speak to you, sir. Everyone wants your time. But I can tell you, Mr. President, going up and down the country, there are whispers. There are ugly whispers. And unfortunately, it comes from our people. Do not believe in stories that happened 2 years ago. Khalid Said has apologized profusely for it. And the Muslims and the Khalids and the Africans and everyone in the Western Cape has forgiven him. I work on the floor with the destitute, the hungry, and so forth. Where he's needed, you don't ask, make an appointment, he's now there. Wherever he rocks up, you don't need to introduce him as Khalid Said. People know who he is. So whoever is spilling information about Khalid Said, tell them they do not know Western Cape. President, beloved President, he's our man of the hour. We want the Western Cape to be an ANC again. We are tired of the Zionists taking control of our province. I beg of you, Mr. President, as your comrade, as a belief, let the announcement be made, please. Thank you.
Next.
Yes.
May I really request that we stick to our 2 minutes?
Assalamu alaikum, beloved President Ramaphosa. My name is Shafiq Davids. I am the director of the Sultan Bau Drug Treatment Centers in the Western Cape. But first, as a Muslim, I want to commend the Honorable President and the ANC, the NEC, for your stance with Israel and the Zionist apartheid Israel against all the genocides in Palestine. So as a Muslim, I first want to say that. And on that bitter note, when we think and talk about Palestine, I now want to speak as the director of the treatment centers of drug rehab centers in the Western Cape, one in Anova Park, one we have in Mitchell's Plain, and one in Belleville for 19 years. These treatment centers have been operating, Honorable President, serving our communities. We're not taking a single cent from them and depending on government grants. But as we speak today, all the NPOs in this Western Cape are suffering with tremendous funding cuts. While drug addiction soars, gangsterism is on the increase, our children dying, this is what is happening in our province. While we try as NPOs to serve this community, while we try to make sure that government service delivery stops, we are facing massive funding cuts. My question, I know everybody's been going on for too long, so my question to you, Honorable President, is what is the ANC, what are you going to direct our government to do about the ongoing killing in our community? Because while we're serving, while we're offering treatment, young men die outside our treatment center doors. What are you going to do for us, Honorable President? What is the ANC going to do for us in this province? We have suffered far too long. What are you going to do for us to end and to support NPOs in terms of funding and to support us in terms of doing something about the huge crime that we have in the Western Cape? And this I'm asking, Honorable President, not only on behalf of our drug treatment center, not only on behalf of the NPOs of the Western Cape, of civil society, But I'm asking you this on behalf of every crying mother in our on our Cape Flats. That's my question to you, Honourable President. Shukran.
Good afternoon. My name is Jackie Poking. I'm from Boerkaap, Ward 77. My question I will get to shortly. Firstly, Comrade President, thank you for the work around heritage and Boerkaap's protection. We still have challenges with regards to that protections. As we know, within the city of Cape Town, they are very disrespectful of our cultural heritage and our traditions. So we do suffer tremendously because of the governing party in Cape Town and the Western Cape. But that does not mean I cannot thank you for the work that the ministers and yourself have done to grant us the protections that we have. Now, coming to that, lots of people played positive roles and leading roles in getting us those protections. And one of them is Comrade Khalid. So my question is this: why have we not made the announcement for Premier candidate for the ANC in the Western Cape? In fact, I want you to challenge you as our comrade leader to lead us in this and make the announcement here, now, so that we leave here with the good news. That we go and spread the good news when we leave this venue today. Spread the good news. Our Premier candidate is Khalid, and we will spread it throughout the Western Cape. Thank you.
I'm number 7. Yeah. Thank you, Comrade President, our leadership. I greet you and all protocols observed. I must say that I am born and bred in Cape Town, but I live in Gauteng, so I live between two cities. My job was is to work with poor communities through the NETLAC process and the Presidential Job Summit. And coming to the Western Cape from Gauteng over the years, I've seen, since the DA have taken power here, the deterioration and more homeless people in the Western Cape. And I think now is the time for the ANC to really give us more resources, because our people are crying out. Our poor people are crying out in this province because they have nowhere to turn to. Our young people going to Hanover Park and to Manenberg, our young people are willing to work, willing to have SMMEs. Our Minister, Comrade from Department of Finance, Comrade Enoch, they want to work. They want to have their own businesses and create their own jobs. But this province is not allowing them to do that. What they are doing is they're pushing more alcohol, more drugs into these communities. And it's actually very, very sad. So we need, Comrade President, for you to send more resources so we can take this province from the blue lies, like Comrade Cameron had said, and liberate our people like we want to liberate the Palestinians. Thank you, Comrade President.
Right. The benefits of being disabled in the new South Africa. Bringing the mic to me. Thank you. Mr. President, I would like to thank you for coming down to the Cape Flats and granting us this opportunity to make you aware of the challenges that we are dealing with on a daily basis. My name is Ghalib Esop. I am an activist and I feed thousands of people on a weekly basis on the Cape Flats. And the challenges that we are dealing with, Mr. President, is beyond control. We cannot control what is happening to our people anymore. The Western Cape, you know the tale of the two cities. There's a certain reality on the one side and there's a certain reality on the other side. Mr. President, we've come to understand that in the Western Cape, people do not just wake up in the morning and decide to become a gangster, or decide to become a drug addict, or decide even to become a prostitute. It is because of the daily realities that we, Mr. President, need to deal with, and the absence of preventative programs and initiatives that's supposed to be alive on the Cape Flats or in the wider Western Cape on a daily basis to make sure that we steer our people away from these bad elements. But unfortunately, our reality is what our reality is. And I deal with these people on a daily basis. From Athlone right through to Lavendale, to Valhalla Park, you name it. Mr. President, the people are sick and tired. They are tired of what they are experiencing in the Western Cape. The DA has disappointed us on every level. On every level possible. Now, the challenge that we are sitting with, Mr. President, as the people that is dealing with these communities because of the absence of government. We are dealing with a group of people, Mr. President, that is not necessarily politically active. They're not politically active, but they are registered to vote. Now, who do they vote for? Mr. President, largely they vote for a face. And if there's no face, they don't know who to vote for. And ideally, they'll just go to the white woman again and go vote there because we are not doing a better job to persuade them to come and vote for us. So, Mr. President, my appeal to you on behalf of the communities and the thousands of people that I deal with on a daily basis, make the announcement. Put the face out there. Muhammad Khalid Sayed. He has been down to each and every one of my soup kitchens. The people love him. I don't know why we are not putting the face out there. We are hours away from elections. Let's do it, Mr. President. Because the day you leave here, Mr. President, our realities becomes our challenges again. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The name is Abdurrahman Khan. I wear actually two caps. I'm here on behalf of the Media Muslim Matters newspaper. And then I'm also an activist in education. I'm not here to tout for anybody, be it Khalid or whoever. But I can say the experiences we had when Khalid was in the legislature and fighting the causes in education. And he was one of the members in the legislature that stood up for Wesley Newman that was fired by the DA, Western Cape Education Department. And he's always standing for the plight of the poor teachers and students. Well, I was also part of the team, and Comrade Connie can tell you that we stopped the closure of the schools when the DA tried to close the schools in 2013, and we won that matter. Well, as from the media, I'm not going to say further. The only question we want to know is when that announcement will be made, okay? But we also, having our ears on the ground as media, we know there's a problem, and that's a sectarian problem. And we need to speak about that because of the issue in the Muslim community. And we can be, if we are anti-racist, then we should be anti-sectarian also. Now, because he is a Shia, and we must say it the way it is, people are scared to say that there's a problem. And we know leading ulama in the Sunni fold are opposing him because he's Shia. And those are we must get rid of the sectarianism. It's a cancer in this community. And people are not talking about it. I've heard many things beside it, and that is the issue at stake. So we're just asking you, when will the announcement be made of your candidate, whoever it's going to be?
Your Excellency, Mr. President, I'm standing here, no complaints. I want to put you at ease, but I think we need to fire your photographer, because it seems you look more handsome in person than on the photo. Except, that's what I want to see, Mr. President. Except you weren't smiling the whole time. Now you're smiling. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I am a humanitarian. I'm a patriot without an ANC card. But nevertheless, I want to take us down the road of truth without complaints. I remember Auntie Farida sitting there. I loved your husband very much. He was a dear friend of my beloved uncle, Sheikh Abdul Hamid Khabir. And I served the Sheikh for 25 years in Johannesburg. When he became ambassador, the first scholar of religious studies as the ambassador to Saudi Arabia. But nevertheless, Mr. President, it is here in Cape Town that the ANC fathers and elders were incarcerated. It is here in Cape Town where the first steps of freedom was taken from the Paulsmoor prison. And it is here in Cape Town that we've received the least support from the people of Cape Town towards the ANC. And Mr. President, you are our leader. We acknowledge that, and we thank you with the Lady of Light, Madam Naledi Pandor, for having taken us down the street, down the road to the ICJ, and taken to task the Zionist proxy party of the genocidal state of Israel. And I ask you sincerely, Mr. President, and I think it is very important that I share this with everyone. There is a matter of protocol everywhere, and our protocol is based on the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says, "Al-adabu fawqa al-ilm," that the good manners is above knowledge even. So I stand here not complaining, but asking our Mr. President, His Excellency, to re-establish that day when Mr. Mandela walked out with his first steps of freedom, promising the freedom of Cape Town. Now is the time that we should oust this genocidal Zionist proxy party in Cape Town and take the reins. And what we need to do, Mr. President, this is my opinion, I feel, I agree with many of us that we need a face. I'm not going to say who that face should be, because it is our president's decision. It is him and the executive of the ANC and the government that decides who is going to be our lieutenant in Cape Town. And there is a candidate. Everyone speaks about candidates. There is only one answer to that. There is a beautiful saying that our Lord, our great Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ مَاكِرِينَ. He plans and they plan. God's plan is the best of plans. So let us take this genocidal Zionist proxy party out of the equation completely and take back Cape Town like we rightly should have done from the first day Mr. Mandela stepped out of prison. Allahu Akbar, Takbir. Takbir! Takbir! Viva Mr. President! Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The Sheikh has spoken. May I just check from the speakers that are following from the Sheikh if they've got a different question from the questions that have been asked? Because I'm worried there are people who must take their medication amongst us. So if there's a different question, I would afford that opportunity. If it's the same questions that have been asked, I would humbly request that the audience be given an opportunity to receive the responses from the President. I am, however, going to allow at least 5 more hands after the President has responded. So, are we getting different questions? All right. Just a development. I'm sure I'm attentively listening. So if there's 2 questions, I would only allow 2 questions, but the 3rd question I won't ask. So prepare yourselves. Just ask 1 or 2 questions and not more than 1. And we minimize our opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. All protocol observed. Mr. President, this afternoon I'm going to be speaking in my capacity as a young person and raising my concerns from which I've observed growing up on the Cape Flats. I am from Manenberg, one of the most gang-infested areas on the Cape Flats. So for 30 years, the ANC has been the government of the day. So for this upcoming election, I want to know from the ANC, what is the ANC going to do different to contain the scourge of gang violence, not only in Manenberg, but on the Cape Flats at large? Mr. President, the issue of gang violence, it is not a policing issue on its own. It requires many sectors of society to join hands. It requires the education department, housing, social development, and even the finance department, Minister Enoch. I'm pleased to see you here. So I want to know from the ANC, what are you guys going to do different? Because your approach as to contain the situation of gang violence for the past 30 years, it's not worked. So you need to relook at what you're currently doing. My second question is, I'm also part of the minstrels, or better known as the Kaapse Klopse. And it is an age-old tradition. It is a tradition that is older than both you and I, Mr. President. It's been coming on for centuries. What we currently face with now, the challenges that we currently face with as the minstrels is when we want to parade and express ourselves culturally, what the racist, Zionist, DA government is doing, they're wanting us to apply for permits to walk in our own streets, to practice our own culture. Certainly, that is not the case. We feel like we're being segregated because we cannot walk in areas freely to entertain people as we want. We need to apply for a permit. And that is not on. I don't know if your Minister of Sport, Minister Zizi Kodwa, knows that we have something called the Kaapse Klopse. And I think the reason why we are complying with the Zionist DA, we have got no choice but to comply with what they're putting out, is because they're funding us. So they're threatening us, if you're not going to comply with what we're telling you, we will withdraw the funds. So that is where the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture needs to step in and fund the minstrels then, so that we become less reliant on an apartheid Zionist supporting DA. And then lastly, Mr. President, during your State of the Nation address, you said that the NHI bill, it's on your desk and it will be signed into power soon. If ever there's a time that the NHI bill needs to be signed into power, it is now. Because the gap between quality healthcare, it is vast for those who can afford quality healthcare and those who cannot afford quality healthcare. So let healthcare be universal for each and every South African, regardless of what they can afford and regardless of their class in society. Thank you.
Viva ANC, viva! Viva President Ramaphosa, viva! Viva Comrade Godongwana, viva! Comrades, Mr. President, thank you very much. My name is Salim Mauser. I'm the former ward councillor for this area. We meet at a critical time in the history of our country. And I want to make an appeal to all the people in this hall today and to the people of Cape Town and the Western Cape. Let us vote for the ANC 3 times so that we ensure that President Ramaphosa goes back to the union buildings. Our second vote is to vote for the ANC to make sure that the DA is removed from power in the Western Cape. And the third vote is for the ANC to ensure that we have a formidable majority in both the National Assembly, the National Council of Provinces, and in the Western Cape and all our other provinces. We've had 15 years of misrule by the DA in this province. The poor are getting poorer with a lack of basic services and infrastructure, and the rich, affluent areas continue to get the best world-class services. So the DA proclaims that the Western Cape is the best-run province and the best-run city. They need to come out to our communities to see how our poor communities are living under terrible conditions with poor services to our people. And so a call to all of you. The President has led our country. He has given vision, direction. He is continuing the task of Comrade Madiba, Owar Tambo, Tala Omar, Joe Slovo, and others to continue building a non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic South Africa. If the ANC does not win this election, we're sure we're going to, but if we don't, we will go backwards. And we need to give our president a firm mandate to govern for the next 5 years and take the country forward. We want to thank the president for taking the lead in our country's stance on Gaza and in support of the Palestinian people. Any other party that comes into power will immediately withdraw the case at the ICJ, and they will restore relations with apartheid Israel. And if we vote for the DA, we're effectively voting for relations to be restored with apartheid Israel. We call on each and every one to vote for President Ramaphosa, to vote for the ANC 3 times, and we can then engage with the President and Cabinet on how we address the problems of the poor in terms of service delivery in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm just a bit emotional. Mr. President, my name is Lutfi Muhammad, and I'm proud to say I'm a product of the 1976 riots. I was part of the stone-throwing army in Belgrave Road, Cliffontein Road, Thornton Road, and that reminds you what the Palestinians are going through presently. Mr. President, education is at the core of my heart. The DA government saw it fit 3 years ago to close down a complex in Ottery. I'm an ex-educator there, where boys will learn skills. You are always talking about we are an unskilled people, Mr. President. I would like to know from the ANC government, which we hope is going to win the Western Cape and take it from the DA, they do not see people of color. They want our children to be in drugs, in gangsterism so that they can vote for the DA. But I would like to know from you, Mr. President, will we reopen that complex? Because there's about 13 trades that can be taught there at that school. I remind myself of the proverb of the Chinese that give a man a fish, then he has food for one day. But teach him how to fish, then he has food for life. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
I'm now going to recognize Comrade Mandla Mandela, but I also want to make a plea to the meeting. It's almost 6 o'clock, and we all know 6 o'clock is prayer time. So I'm going to request that we recognize only Comrade Mandla Mandela and the comrade here in front and close the question and answer. Okay. There's a request for the last person and close thereafter. Because I'm worried we're going to run out of time. The president must still respond, and the president must also make and convey the message from the ANC. I'm really pleading with everyone. I know everybody would have wanted to speak to the president, but may I really request we do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Program Director, Your Excellency, Comrade President Cyril Ramaphosa, Comrade Minister Thembu Kotongwane, provincial leadership, my respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I've been introduced as Mandla Mandela, but my name is Nkosizwe Velile Mandela. I will be very short as I only have 2 questions. One question, perhaps before I get into the question, let me respectfully greet Auntie Farida Omar. She was the person to take me to meet my grandfather when I came for the first time to the Western Cape. In 1983, as a 9-year-old boy, she received us at the airport with the late Comrade Dala Omar, and I was fortunate to be introduced to my grandfather at Paulsbo Prison with her and the assistance of the late Dala Omar. But I would like to pose 2 questions. One as a traditional leader, Comrade President, based on the first battle of resistance for land was in these shores, the Battle of Salt River, where the Khoi and the San defeated a settler colonialist by the name of Francois Almeida, and he was killed in these shores with his entire battalion. Now we had an opportunity as black majority of parties in parliament, this 6th parliament, where we spoke about the expropriation of land without expropriation. But many of us ended up, without compensation. And many of us then were stuck in this colonial language of without compensation or with nil compensation. And that opportunity fell out the window because we couldn't reach agreement. In your own assessment, Comrade President, how can we assert our right of getting the land that was lost of our forefathers? As many of us, indigenous peoples of the Republic, still want to see the land totally reversed to its rightful owners. That would be the first question, Comrade President. My second question is on what we truly stand for. We have always advocated that we stand with Palestine. And I'm happy today to see that we have a poster that says the ANC stands in solidarity with Palestine. And in this regard, Comrade President, we must applaud your efforts at the ICJ as well as that of Comrade Minister Naledi Pandor and Ronald Lamola, who have made us proud to be South Africans. It has been a historic chapter, and the entire global community supports us. Many countries have rallied behind our cause, and I know, coming from Turkey recently, the Turkish government has given their full support behind our case in the ICJ. But I would like to ask a question as an activist, Comrade President. Do we still have an embassy in Tel Aviv? I know very well that you recalled our officials for a consultative process, but it has not been clear to us if the embassy has been shut down, or do we still lease or own an embassy in Tel Aviv? Secondly, on that issue, Comrade President, with the late Comrade DSG Jesse Duarte, may his soul rest in peace, we called for the expulsion of the Zionist ambassador to South Africa. And we are happy that since we called for a consultative process, the Zionists have also recalled their ambassador for a consultative process. It is not the wish of South Africans. South Africans have continuously called for his expulsion. But what also leaves the uncertainty with us, Comrade President, is that through the government and through the Department of Transport, we issue flight operating permits to El Al, which is the Zionist national airline. From the Zionist entity, it flies into the Republic 5 times a week into OR Tambo. Our comrades in Ireland, who stand in solidarity with the Palestinian cause, have cancelled all rights to El Al to fly into Ireland. And you know the role they played in our own anti-apartheid movement, how they gave their unwavering support, and they continue to do so. As South Africa, why have we not been able to cancel the flight operating permits for El Al? And lastly, Comrade President, through the Ministry of Defense, we have the Foreign Military Assistance Act, and which prohibits any South African from aiding any military outside the borders of the Republic. In this regard, we have South African Zionists that are aiding the Zionist entity in its genocide, ethnic cleansing, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, who continue to sing our national anthem in the war-torn Gaza Strip. And we want to know, as we've heard the ministers and government say that we are waiting for you to return home, you will be arrested. But we need not wait, Comrade President, because since 2014, we have collected over 149 cases that we have submitted to the ministry for their arrest. They are living side by side with us here in Cape Town, in Sea Point. These murderers serving in the Golami Brigade have been seen here in our shores. One of them was in George. We reported it to all the respective authorities and departments for his immediate arrest. We have not received any news, and we don't even know if he's still in South Africa. But the idiot that perpetuated the lie of 40 babies being beheaded by Hamas, a revolutionary movement and a resistance movement that we give unwavering support to as South Africans. Takbir! Takbir! We cited him here in Sea Point, and we reported his lobbying and recruiting of Zionists here in Cape Town to go and continue to fight in the Gaza Strip. And we have not even had any reports of his arrest. But what is alarming, Comrade President, is that the principal of health here in Cape Town has proclaimed that 22% of their students, they go and serve in the IOF and they support the Zionist entity. And the Minister of Basic Education hasn't even carried out an inquiry in that regard. What are we doing, Comrade President, to totally illustrate that we stand fully in support with our Palestinian brothers and sisters in this fight for self-determination? I thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, President, Mr. Kodangwana. I think this question I have will be more, for you. Some time ago in Parliament, Jacob Zuma was struggling to spell out a certain number. He really couldn't get to it. I hope I'm going to get this number right. 192,569,476,513 rands is what we are owing. That is our debt. That is an interest payment, just on the debt that we have. So there's no barakah in this country. The Quran is clear, all the scriptures are clear. What I hate more than the DA is the money lenders, who Jesus himself chased out when they were lending money to people in the church. So I don't know how we ended up in this mess. When the new democracy, got underway, I think the first finance minister, Trevor Manuel, he was, applauded for bringing our debt down. But I don't know what has happened. In the last few years, you can see the amount we are owing. If you have to pile up $1 notes from the ground, it will go up 29,000 kilometers into the sky. That's how much money we are owing. So please, I don't know what's the plan. There's going to be no jobs. Nothing is going to come right if we don't come out of this debt trap. Second question. I have some nice meat. Maybe I'm planning for a braai. And I know there's a lot of hyenas there around my yard. I'm not going to leave the meat there, go in my house and come back and look, hey, which hyena stole? That's what's happening in this country. When we had COVID here, we knew there were billions of rands, thousands and millions of rands that people are going to steal. We know there's hyenas there. We wait for them to steal, then we want to go catch the hyenas. So I think we must be careful. Whenever there's money, don't wait for it to be stolen and corrupt activities take place, and then we go and look for the crooks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm now going to offer an opportunity for the President of the Republic to respond to the questions that has been posed. Can we give a warm welcome to the President?
Thank you. Let us be seated, please. Amandla. Amandla. Viva ANC, viva. Forward to victory, forward. Program Director, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I want to greet you all, but especially greet my dearest Comrade Farida, Omar, for welcoming me at the door. It was a very warm welcome, a very big, warm hug, which I've become accustomed to. So thank you very much, Comrade Farida. And I thank you on your collective behalf as well. Thank you very much for being here. As we have heard, are just exactly 32 minutes before many of you go for prayers, and there are quite a number of other events that other people also want to go to. I longed to have this opportunity, and when it seemed like people were not coming as it had been expected, I felt that we should go ahead nonetheless, and I'm glad that we opted for that. There have been many questions and urgings and salutations, as well as views that have been expressed about what the ANC should do in relation to a candidate premier for the coming elections. I'll want to deal with that because what I can say is that we have heard you. Our normal practice as the ANC is never to declare a candidate premier anywhere in the entire Republic for a whole host of reasons, political as well as organizational. That has been the standing position of the African National Congress for the longest time. We've always taken the view that our campaign for elections has one face, and that is the face of the president. And that even emanates from the election of a president or the president. When the president is elected at our national conference, he or she is automatically the candidate of the African National Congress to be president of the Republic. Without any doubt, without any question, that has always been broadly accepted and decided as the position. As we went on with our own organizational history, we found that even at the provincial level, we should have an approach that says we only have one candidate. A candidate which is the president, and after the elections, we then appoint an executive, which is the national executive, which is the cabinet, and thereafter, the national executive then nominates or decides on who the premier should be. They are then given the responsibility to go ahead and put together names for their own provincial cabinets, if you like, in consultation with the officials. So that has been the practice. As we came to the 2024 elections, we realized that we wanted to have a real push in the Western Cape and have a slightly different approach this time around in the Western Cape, realizing that we could have a chance to take this province back to the ANC. And we felt that in order to boost our campaign here in the Western Cape, we should deviate from normal practice and nominate a premier candidate and announce that ahead of the elections. Wait. You are too much in a hurry. You are too much in a hurry. So accordingly, the discussion then ensued in the officials. It then went to the NWC. The NEC, having yes felt that we should do so. We then engaged in a consultation process. The Provincial Executive Committee discussed the matter, and having done so, it also recommended a name. Soon after the name was recommended, we had a flurry. Before the announcement was even made, we had a flurry of views objecting. And this, I am telling you, as the position ensued. We had a flurry of different views that came to the fore. And the officials discussed this very past Monday. The Secretary General had been in a consultation very broadly with a number of those organizations. And I should say quite a number of premier organizations, really outstanding organizations, supported the view that had been put forward. But a number of others also came forward. Now, the ANC being who we are, we always want to take different views into account. In most of what we do, we are oriented in that way. We want to unite rather than to divide. We want the various views that are articulated to be heard and to be processed, and so that when we take a final decision, proper consultations and proper discussions will have taken place. That is how we operate. Some of you may see this as a weakness, may see this as outsourcing the decisions that we have to take. But unfortunately, that is how we operate, because just completely disregarding the views of those who are putting a slightly different viewpoint to us would be neglecting the normal way that we work. We've got to take those views into account, and we've also got to persuade those who may have a completely different view. And we've always operated like that, and the objective has always been unite. Bring everyone into the crawl, bring everyone into a consensus. And once we've built the consensus, then we can move forward. Even during the negotiation process of our own revolution, we always sought to work on the basis of building a sufficient consensus, that there should be a sufficient number of role players, stakeholders, people, and organizations that help to build that consensus so that we can move forward. So the officials this past Monday, having discussed the matter, having discussed this matter of Comrade Khalid having been nominated, felt that we needed to close off the whole consultation process. Now, it so happens, and I didn't know the matter would come up today, it so happens that the views that have been expressed here, and they are strong views, very, very strong and fervent views, are the views that add up to this whole consultation process. I know, and some of you were were swallowing your words, your names, and I couldn't hear all the names properly. But one of my comrades stood up here and said, President, announce today. Before this meeting rises, announce. That's what she was saying. Now, I know that is the desire that many of you, if not all of you, want. That announce now. So that as we end this meeting, we should know. The very first speaker, and I thought I heard, was it Comrade Hendrik who spoke first. He took his long time. And, you know, he went around the corner, went underground, and, you know, sought to explain. And somebody even said, what is the question? And it took him the longest time, and only towards the end, this comrade of mine who was in Standard 6 in 1968, I was in Standard 6 in 1966, so you are younger than me. So, comrades, let me say on this one, I have heard you. I've heard you very, very clearly. Your views have been well articulated, and they are strong views. Now, I work with a collective, and we meet regularly. We're meeting again on Monday. We are going to discuss this matter. The Secretary General has been busy himself, as he should be, consulting and talking to a number of people and entities and organizations that raise concerns. And he is going ahead with that, and I am going to report to him to the other colleagues, chapter and verse. And I'm going to say, Comrade so-and-so said this. And the very first comrade took about 13 minutes trying to get to the point, explaining the same thing. And so I am going to be able, armed with what you have said here, and very enlightened with what you have said. And I wish, there was a minute when I wished that Comrade Khalid should not be here, so that he himself should not hear what is being said about him. But I only saw him later. If I had seen him earlier, I would have said 8, so that he shouldn't hear. But comrades, it's all well and good. We are all comrades. We are all chanting for the same cause. We all want the ANC to win. And one of the things that you do firmly believe we should do is to name a candidate for this province. You are not the first. In fact, it was the National Executive Committee of the ANC that felt we should do so. And as we sought to do so, there were other intervening voices. And we also know that Comrade Khalid did apologize. He apologized for what caused the ructions. And the PEC also dealt with the matter. So this matter has its own complexities, but I have heard very, very clearly, and I would like you to allow us to complete this process and then complete it fully as the elected leaders of the ANC. And I'm really pleased that you have had the patience that has allowed you to come also to this forum, to seek to use this forum in an organizational manner to come and express the views that you put forward here. There has been another view so you know. The other view was, we've never done it before for other provinces. We can proceed also with this province without having done it. So that is the other view. But having heard you very, very clearly and strongly, the SG who has been consulting others and myself, having heard the weight of the fervent support that you have given on this matter, we will be able to take this matter forward. So, comrades, I know you want an announcement tonight. I know by saying what I'm saying, I'm disappointing you. It's possible you may love me less. But you know, one of you said, I'm such a good-looking guy. I'm such a handsome guy. Who doesn't love a handsome guy like me? So you will continue to love me. And by the way, the comrade who said that I'm better good-looking in person than in pictures, I must tell you, something happened today. So I was walking around in one of the shopping centers, and there's this lady, an old lady, not a young lady, an old lady. So I'm passing by, she stops me. She says, "Is this Ramaphosa?" I look and I say, "Yes." She says, "Oh my God, it looks like you look like you are 16 years old." You can imagine how that boosted my ego. And she said something else. She says, "I could have you, you know." So, for the second time today, you know, I really feel like I'm floating. So, comrades, you don't like me for not making the announcement today, but love me for, not so much for my looks, but for being president of the ANC. An ANC that you are going to make sure it wins. So we will be coming back to you on this matter. To be more serious, I have heard you, and the SG is completing his own processes, because many of these views came directly to him as the one person who is at the center of our consultation process. I even heard my sister, I didn't get your name, but all I heard was that I'm not a member of the ANC. Well, I think you now have become warmed up to the ANC. I mean, what with me looking like I look? So, comrades, I think this matter will be... she's blushing, I know. So a number of you spoke on this matter, and we've heard, as I say. And then there was a comrade, was it Comrade Kasim, who spoke about stadiums are not in the hands of the municipalities. And we need to get the stadiums out of the hands of the municipalities. Unfortunately, it is also by law. I don't know which part of the local government, but is it? Which? Oh, I thought you were answering as well. By law, the stadiums have to be looked after by municipalities. We build the stadiums. This is now the unfortunate part. We build the stadiums, I think, except one, which is FNB, which was in part financed by the First National Bank because we were going to 2010. For the most part, all the other stadiums were built by the national government. But then for some reason, we then hand them over to local government to look after them. And then they manage them, they get the income from events that take place through a management committee of some sort. And we need then to look at how that management committee of the stadiums then works with regard to the complaint that Comrade Kasim raised. So it's something that can be looked into. You complained about visas. Yes, the visa issue is a problem, and in fact, there are countries that should be made exceptional. We need to make an exception, truly speaking, for the Palestinians who come from Palestine, who want to come to South Africa. need to make an exception. So it's a matter that we are going to look into. We will look into, and I'd like to say we need to look at it positively, because we are able to say this country, we will make an exception to the norm and so forth. So standing where we are as South Africa on the issue of Palestine, we will make an exception so that our brothers and sisters from Palestine should be able to come here, and not so much only as refugees, but to be able to come here for a variety of purposes. So, comrade, thank you very much for raising this, and we will see how we proceed. Now, I need to rush because I don't want to stand in between your prayer session and continuing here. I think it was Comrade Daniels. I didn't hear all the names, but he spoke about NPOs, or she spoke about NPOs are suffering from the cuts, budget cuts, and in the end, we need to look at NPOs. And I'll say to you that yes, we do need to do so, largely because NPOs do valuable work to support the work of government. And government cannot do everything. And many of the tasks that government has to execute are executed by non-profit organizations that are able to reach out much more effectively than we do. We saw it very well when we were fighting COVID-19. Much of the work was done by other organizations that got support from government. Similarly, with HIV/AIDS, when we have had to spread the word, it was NPOs or non-profit organizations that helped. So we need to strengthen them. We need to support them so that they do not rely on support from outside of the country. Because sometimes organizations are supported from outside the country and they are captured and they work against the interests of our country. So I'm glad that Comrade Enoch Godongwana is here. He's got his one ear open. I know the other one is closed. But he must open the other ear and hear exactly what our people are saying. The issue of crime is a major problem for all of us in the country. One of the weaknesses that ensued during state capture was that we allowed the budget of the police to keep going down. But we also, where state capture took effect, was to allow some of the really good people who were involved in fighting crime to be pushed out of police service. And we have remained, yes, with a number of really good people, but we needed more, if you like, muscle power. But the other problem is that we allowed the ratio between police and population to go out of sync. In other countries, the ratio is well balanced. You have enough police for the number of people that you have in your country. And in our country, we had more people and less police. It was only in the last 3 years that we took a decision to employ more police. And fortunately, we were able to allocate more money. And in the recent period, we've recruited 30,000. But here in the Western Cape, we're dealing with a special problem of gang violence. We need to get on top of this. And it's been going on for years. It's been decades that the communities in the Western Cape, it started off in the Cape Flats, it's now moved way beyond, and also in the African townships, it's just gangs that are proliferating. And they've now moved to extortion. They now extort money. Illegal, well, there's no legal extortion, but they extort money. And we've just been to a restaurant in the township, where were we? In the township, in Philippi. The owner of the restaurant was shot dead last year or so because he refused to pay extortion money. and his daughters are now running the restaurant. But so many businesses are finding that money is being extorted from them. So we've got to have specialized units that are going to focus on this, but we've also got to strengthen the criminal intelligence division, so that through criminal intelligence we're able to preempt many of the things that criminals will want to do. So we are going to focus on this. We are strengthening policing. We need more police stations, like in Kamnandi, where we were. There's only one police station for 40,000 people or so, and therefore we need to jack up that whole process. Somebody spoke about poor communities where we need more resources. Yes, we need that. And then there's also the issue of, yes, when people want to go and express, I must go. Okay, 5 minutes to go. So I've finished now. Comrade Enoch, thank you. Somebody spoke about the Cape Minstrels. They need permits. And really for a cultural expression, I believe that that should be allowed without strictures like permits, that as though you are going to hold a demonstration which can turn violent, that should not be the fear and the concern. The NHI bill is, yes, on my desk, and the NHI bill is going to be completed, it's going to be signed, so be relaxed. That NHI is going to happen, whether people like it or not, that is going to go ahead. And I'm glad, and I'm rushing now because we've got to finish. Yes, Nkosi Mandela, you've raised a number of things that needs to be addressed about the embassy. How can we get our land back? We were not able to get the 2/3 majority. We were on course for that process. You're a member of parliament. You know exactly what happened. But at the end, even the constitution does not really prevent us from ensuring that our people get their land back. We did say that by 2030 we want 30% of the land to be in the hands of our people. We now at 25%. Before 2030, many people who work on the land do believe that that could be achieved. The issue of the embassy, you raise a very valid point. It's a matter that is under consideration. I didn't know about these 140 people that you say are in the country and their identities are known. We've got an Act of Parliament, and therefore the National Prosecuting Agency should be able to do their work. The last question which I need to deal with before we go for prayers is we must avoid the debt trap. And I thought that that was a very important input. Yes, our country is heavily laden with debt. Our debt, as the minister will confirm, we are at about 72% or thereabouts of GDP to debt. Many other countries are at 100% and way above. We, through the policies that we have executed, particularly this year, we have maintained a fairly good, prudent macroeconomic approach to manage our debt whilst ensuring that we make available resources for services that need to be delivered to our people. Debt is one of the concerns that we have as a government. We don't want our debt to balloon to unmanageable levels, to a point where we will not be able to deliver proper services to our people. Are we dealing with corruption? Yes, we are dealing with corruption, and in quite a focused manner. And many of the things that we are doing to deal with corruption don't grab the headlines. Recently, publication called, an organization called Corruption Watch came out with a report that said, in the past 5 years, we've actually seen the incidence of corruption going down and the reports on corruption going down as opposed to what used to happen in the past 7 years. Now, this is an organization that is very critical of us in government, but they have said in the 6th administration, we have seen corruption being brought down. Now, the informative part of this is that in the past, we never used to hear about the successes of the SIU, the Special Investigation Unit. We now hear about their successes, what they are doing. They are coming out with damning reports that lead to prosecutions. So we are doing something. But where I think, comrade, you made a good point, is that we must not wait for hyenas to eat the meat when we know that they are there. Because we know that there are hyenas where there is money. We must take care ahead of time. Where I think we did have a weakness during COVID, and I want to end on this, the mistake we made with COVID is that when the time came for PEPs, the protection, what do we call the personal, yes, protection. So those PPEs, personal protection equipment, PPEs. When we all knew that we needed masks, we needed sanitizers, and so forth, we then said to various government agencies, go and procure, enter into contracts. That's where we made a mistake. What we should have done is to do with what we did with vaccines. When the vaccines era arrived, we said government is the only buyer, centrally. And the Minister of Finance said, with health, we are the only buyers, nobody else buys. Because we are dealing with a life-threatening situation. So we managed that one correctly. The PPE ones, we were not streetwise. We allowed every department, everyone. And then that is where the thieves, the robbers, the rogues saw a chance. And then they came in. People who knew nothing about PPEs suddenly became the experts, the procurers. And that is where money was stolen. But that having happened, my last word, that having happened, the SIU was able to investigate and a lot of money was returned to the state. Those who participated in that corruption are now facing legal or criminal charges and they are being dismissed from work. That is happening as we speak now, and that is how we deal with corruption. So, comrades, I want to thank you because we've got to go for prayers. I want to thank you for this moment. I really thoroughly appreciate the views and the fervent, somehow emotional views that were expressed here. We value them, we take them into account, and I want to say I'm humbled by the views that you have expressed about ensuring that the ANC takes over the Western Cape. And all of us must go ahead and do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Just as you sit down for half a second, just half a second, may I take the opportunity. My name is Connie September. I am the branch chairperson of Robert Waterwich, this one here, Thornhill. Allow me to thank all of you profusely for your patience, for coming here, for always supporting us. May I quickly take the opportunity to also inform you that on the 22nd of May, in the same venue, we will be having Minister Naledi Pandor as you know, we are commemorating the passing of Comrade Dalla Omar. We couldn't do so because it was the fast. We ask you humbly to come and join us again, 7:30 in the same hall with Minister Naledi Pandor as we celebrate the life of this great leader of ours, Dalla Omar. Comrade President, thank you very much for coming here today and for gracing us with your presence.
Yes, I want to say something.
Okay.
Comrades, I did not comment on the stance and the action that we took, and not so much as the government. It is the people of South Africa, yourselves, the stance that we took with regard to supporting the Palestinians. That is what you must own. And I know that people say, oh, it is the president, oh, it is Comrade Lamula, oh, it's Comrade Naledi. It is you who ensured that we take that position. And it was Nelson Mandela who inspired us to adopt that very strong position. And we are never going to turn back from supporting the cause of the Palestinians. Be sure about that. Thank you very much indeed.